Hello and welcome back to PHL Cup. I'm your host Manny, and before we start, I do want to give a quick shout out to our main sponsors, Team Builder and Eccentric, who essentially let us run this podcast the way we run it. So big shout out to them. But today we have John Patrick. How are we doing?
Good, good. How you doing today?
I'm good. I need to stop mentioning this, but I feel really awkward doing it. It's saying hello after we've been speaking for half hour. But if you just let us know a quick background, like how you got into S&C
Sure.
and where you currently are.
Yeah, for sure. First got into strength conditioning, or was introduced, I guess, when I was in high school. Obviously, playing the sport a long time ago. Had football coaches that were really animate about getting kids in the weight room and training them. So really grew into a passion as far as strength conditioning at an early age. From there, went into collegiate level. Obviously got my undergrad degree. Played athletics in college. Obviously, same thing. Training in college. Had a great individuals that mentored me there as far as strength conditioning goes. And worked with a man that invented the big rubber bands, Dick Hartzell. So I worked with him for a period of time and got to know his training methods behind those bands and stuff. And that was in the late '90s, so a long time ago. And that pretty much propelled me. Having that relationship propelled me into minor league baseball for 2 years with two different teams, and then from there I wanted to get my master's program. So then that started my journey in the collegiate level. So I spent about 21 years at the collegiate level as an assistant and as a director at various programs, from Jacksonville University to Kennesaw State to Youngstown State, most recently at UNC Charlotte, and then just recently started working in, I guess 5 years ago, started working in the high school level. Worked at a smaller private high school for a period of time. For 3 years, I was the director of physical education there. I guess department chair for physical education and the director of strength and conditioning there. And then just recently I moved to a larger high school, completely opposite end of the spectrum, a 7A school in Georgia. So we went from 300 kids at second year high school. So we went from 300 kids in the high school at the private school, and now I'm at a high school that we have roughly 2,700 kids. So it's totally changed in a very competitive county, Net County in outside of Atlanta, Georgia. There's 24 high schools, roughly 80,000 students in that whole county. So there's a lot of talent in there. So, it's definitely changed. So I've worked at private sector in between jobs. I've worked in the tactical realm as a contractor for a period of time. Worked at some different areas, but obviously right now working at the high school level has been exciting. This is going into my third year at second year high school. The director of strength and performance, and it's a new position to them. They've never had anybody before, so pretty much came in and trying to get things off the ground and going. So that's background. Obviously, I have a background with NSCA, part of the advisory board for the state of Georgia, but I'm also have a certification through the CSCCA and then the National High School Associations. All the alphabet soup behind my name, and that's fantastic. The big thing is just main thing is just working with kids and working with individuals that want to learn and try to grow, and obviously working with those individuals helps me grow too as a coach and a person. So that's my vested interest. So just a little bit of background for sure.
Yeah. No, it seems like you've kind of touched a bit of everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean that's the way the profession is, right? Like it's not by choice. Like it's just, I mean, it's something that if one position looks good, I'd try to find the best position for myself and my family as far as the next step goes, the most challenging position. And most of the programs I've been to or the positions I've gotten are something like ground up renovations. I guess that's what I specialize in is pretty much revamping programs or starting them from the ground up, trying to get a fresh start and try to build a system from the ground up. And I really hate to use the word culture, but try to change what was there before I got there. You know what I'm saying? So I try to come in with different perspectives and try to grow that. And obviously, when I have an opportunity to hire a staff, bring a staff that complements what we're trying to do and try to lead that program and hopefully leave those programs better than I found them.
Nice. What's one thing that's currently firing you up in your current position?
As far as fire, like as far as challenging or whatnot.
Yeah, like that gets you amped every day to go in.
Oh yeah, it gets me amped. I mean, the big thing is just relationship with the kids, man. Like the kids are great. I don't really work with any real bad kids. Just having that relationship, having them come into the room and understand like what the goal is for today, and a lot of them say it's like their highlight of their day or whatnot. And that's fantastic. I think that's a growing trend among those kids is hey, like They understand there's a pathway, that there's a career choice. If they want to be a strength conditioning coach or professional, they could choose that. And it just doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be good at sport. It could just be something that you enjoy training and the methods of training, the science behind it. So really giving a pathway for those kids to kind of grow into that realm is something that I look forward to. And just the interaction, I think it's great. Interacting with kids, getting to know them, getting to know their families, and just having to pretty much try to make an impact on them somehow. So that's something that's great.
One thing that we kind of spoke about in the lobby, and you're kind of touching on, it's when you're teaching younger athletes or kids who are just starting to become athletic, it's setting out those standards and expectations. What is some standards and expectations that you put forward to the athletes and like, okay, when you come in, this is how we handle ourselves? Here's a quick word from our sponsor, Team Builder. I've personally been using Team Builder since 2022, and it's genuinely changed how I run primitive athletics. Writing programs, delivering them to the clients and athletes, tracking their progress, and it all lives in one place. My clients get their sessions on their phones. I see their progress, I get messages from them, and we are able to stay in constant contact and be able to track every single metric that I need. I spend less time on admin and more time actually coaching. Check out teambuilder.com, and if you use promo code PAChalkup altogether, you get 30-day free trial and you get access to the AMS system.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost is consistency. I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of us, or not a lot of us, but a lot of individuals nowadays want a quick fix. They want to take a pill, or they think they're going to lift weights for 1 week and all of a sudden they're going to see the results. I really preach consistency. Effort is huge too. I think, nowadays, and the ability to strain. When I say effort, so I think kids just don't strain when as soon as they feel uncomfortable, they stop. And sometimes we have to push through those things, and whether our effort is gauged, I try to gauge it on a numerical scale, like, hey, 10 out of 10 is the hardest thing you've ever done. 5 out of 10 is, pretty easy. So I try to use those kind of gauges like that. So those two things, I think, is just the way our body language and the way we handle ourselves too. So it has to be something that individuals are constantly listening. They're not talking while another individual's talking. And if someone has something to say or a question, not to be afraid to ask, right? So I think dealing with the population I deal with, I think sometimes, obviously, there's going to be, we try to limit as much cutting up as possible as far as horseplay and stuff when we're training. It's an important thing, as far as paying attention. But I think the biggest thing is just that they have an understanding of what training is rather than just going through a workout. I think they're two totally different things, and what the end result in mind is. So I try to get goals for every kid. Just write down a goal. Hey, what's two things you want to do? Like, I want to get stronger. I want to look better aesthetically. I want to be able to jump higher. I want to run faster. But having that standards and trying to exceed those things. So those are 3 or 4 things that pretty much right from the get-go, just from a base, I think help out a program overall, because working in a high school setting, a lot of individuals, they think it's run similar to like a physical education class, or they get a bad impression that maybe like the strength coach is just the weight room monitor. They just sit back and kids just go in there and just do half squats all day or max out on bench all day or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But it's something where structure is important, understanding and direction is important. And how you communicate to the kids and how you structure those workouts as far as control on the floor, I think is vital, because that pretty much, sometimes I think it's more important than the workout that you're actually doing is just that structure and that consistency and getting kids to understand the flow of the room and how things are going to work, right? So just having that kind of discipline. So those are little things that I try to touch base on. And it's always different when you're in the room and whether you're dealing with younger kids or older kids, what those important things are.
I think one thing that I kind of always go back to when talking about standards and expectations is our role is essentially trying to build humans that are active members of society or good members for society. And it's that thing where like the workout is the workout, but what are we teaching them personally? We're going resilience. You can do it, right? No matter how hard things get, you've done harder, so you can go. Consistency, like, can they consistently turn up to one thing, even if it's the most mundane thing they've ever seen in their life? And it's this trickle down effect of like, okay, the light's still on and I'm at the other end, do I turn back and turn it off, or do I just go? And it's knowing that you've built humans that will turn back, go get a light, then walk out.
100%. That's one thing in our room, I try to emphasize a lot is you ask an individual to do something, and a lot of times they say, I can't, right? So I try to dismiss that soon and say, hey, we can't. We don't use I can't. We don't use that phrase in here. So it's always something as if I'm going to try, or I will, because that negative, I think sometimes self-talk is the biggest thing holding us back sometimes, or even around our peers, right? So if one peer doesn't want to do something because, I can't do that, it's easy for another person to jump in and do the same thing, especially with the population I'm working with. So, I limit that out. If I hear somebody that says I can't, I try to eliminate that, and try to be more positive, and try to retrospect, build their confidence up, because I can is a confidence issue. It's not necessarily, that you really can't physically do it. So we're just trying to, just like you said, try to build the bigger person. And just like today, I just came from, we had an activity today at the school, but the coaches I work with, we fundraise for money or whatnot, but we use different things. So like building the bigger person, we had a fundraiser today where we actually packed meals for the less fortunate today. So, our team was there. We had roughly maybe 110 individuals, parents and team members. So we included the team families in there. And we made, there was supplies laid out that we packed meals for a certain location in the U.S. for these meals to get shipped to. So it gave us a bigger quality of just training, right? It was more of a family atmosphere, and we're doing something to help humanity and help those individuals. It's always bigger than ourselves, right? Just to be good servant leaders. So we're just trying to. So it's always the ability to grow and move into those directions, which is huge.
I kind of wanted to bring something that we spoke about in the lobby here, and it's, again, we're in a position where, there's interns, there's people who learn from the sort of message or experience that we've had. But something interesting that you said was, it's not always a bad thing to listen to interns. I'm thinking about writing this article on, listening to interns should be a more done thing, because, how many programs have you heard where interns are just rat cleaners or glorified cleaners?
I was just going to say that. No, you're absolutely correct.
So, I'm kind of writing this article in the perspective of, if we listen to them, we might get their interpretation to something that we've not thought, because we're jaded to a lot of things, right? So, I'm more than a decade into this industry. I've seen quite a lot, and I speak to a lot of people, so I've seen a lot. But sometimes I speak to other coaches, and I'm just yeah, that's a really fucking good point. And it's their interpretation. Even if we both read a research article, we might get two different takes from it, because that's my perspective, that's my experience, your perspective, your experience. So it's where can we tie in the interns to be let's explore that a little bit and then come back to me. What's your take on sort of listening to interns and seeing where to say that's a good thing, but it doesn't work because XYZ, or maybe explore that and then let's see where we go from there. Today's episode is sponsored by Eccentric. You all know I'm a big fan of keeping training simple and effective, and Flywheel training fits that perfectly. Now, I've been using Eccentric K-Box since 2021, and it's one piece of equipment, endless exercises, and resistance that adjusts to you automatically. However much effort you put in is what you get out. No guessing the weight, no loading plates, just move. And the Flywheel matches your effort perfectly. Check out the K-Box or the K-Pulley at the link in the description.
Yeah, I think it's essential. I think early in my career, I think it was very, when I had interns, they're kind of almost just like you said, hey, cleaning equipment or cleaning racks or organizing things. And I think that's just from a maturity aspect from myself, is that's how either I was treated, or, I was the head strength coach, so I made the decisions, right? So that was a very closed off mindset. And as time grew on and I got, more and more interns or more assistants or individuals that I was able to mentor, like we talked in the lobby, I think it's essential that you listen to those individuals, because, we are such structured individuals. We like things, in time orientation. We like things in order. Everything has a place and time. So sometimes we just get stuck in the mud sometimes, that it's just the same thing over and over and over because we found it easy to do. You know what I'm saying? I I think it's always good to have individuals speak up or give their opinions or even train with interns, right? Like there's numerous times that we've had, staff training or whatnot, and you may be trying to push the intern to see the envelope as far as how much they can really grit through it, but really what can they teach you about the movement that they're doing or how maybe they would teach it to you know what I'm saying? So how they maybe learned it. So just those interactions, those personal interactions are huge. But even after the workout, there's times where we'd be designing a workout as a staff, and we'd ask, okay, hey, we need something here. What's our feedback? What do you guys think? And they, people would give those opinions. Or vice versa, when a workout's over for the day and we're sitting down as a staff, hey, what went well? What didn't go well? What do you think we should do better? Is there something that we need? And just getting their opinions, I think, is huge, because I think, as an intern, you're always trying to prove yourself, as far as you should always be trying to prove yourself, right? And if there's one thing that you can mention and then all of a sudden, your superior takes it and runs with it and it works, all of a sudden you build a level, you feel like you're there, you know what I'm saying? Like you build that level of confidence. Or even just letting an intern run a certain session or delegate power in a certain means, I think is huge. But it also gives the power of the athletes you're working with. It shows them that you trust that individual, right? So now all of a sudden, those coaches, you may not be labeled an intern by your superior, but some athletes may know this individual's only going to be here for the summer, or only going to be here for the winter, or whatnot. Well, all of a sudden you're running a session, or you're given power of a certain thing, and now all of a sudden you have that power like an assistant coach, right? I think that's huge too. Is I think recently there's been a lot of intern postings as far as, hey, looking for 2 interns. Pay no monetary pay, but we'll pay you food or whatever. And I think it's hard to find some interns nowadays because everybody wants to be paid something. But I think the big thing is a lot of people have to go through that route, whether it's for a semester or for a year. I think it really shows whether or not you can really, obviously, you have to worry about your tangibles as far as living situations or whatnot, but do you really want to coach? It's kind of like a rite of passage, right? Like, it is what it is. But I think it's huge as far as listening to those interns. And like we spoke about earlier, is finding individuals that bring something different to the table, right? I interned for a period of time with a professional football league team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, right here in America. So, and I was just an intern there. And for 4 years, I kept coming back as an intern during a certain period of time during OTAs. And it was I was a big Olympic lift person at the time, and the person that I was interning for, they were a big high intensity machine based training, right? So it was totally against my philosophy, and he knew that. And that coach was kind of against Olympic lifting. At one point in time, he said, "Well, you shouldn't be Olympic lifting, or you shouldn't be doing that." He just educated me on what he did as far as training goes and why he did it in the realm that he was in, right? So it opened my eyes to a different view of training that he did, and and it opened up my toolbox that if I ever came into a same situation, that I could do something similar, right? So I think it's good to have that openness, and never really always be where you're at. I think you hear that all the time. And if I'm an intern, yeah, I want to get a paid job, and that's fantastic. But put your time in and learn as much as you possibly can, and those positions will come to you instead of you just being somewhere for a couple months and then all of a sudden you're trying to go somewhere else, right? Like take the time to grow as a coach and learn from somebody and build that network. And I think that's huge.
I think that's one thing as well with the ability that we do now of traveling and going from internship to internship in different states, countries and whatnot, is you get different, you get exposed to different principles and philosophies. And again, social media is a big one. Like you'll now be able to listen to other coaches speak about different things. And I always go back to this thing of, if you had zero equipment, could you still get a workout in? If not, your toolbox is missing something. Because one big thing that I learned across there was manual resistance is a real thing. Like you can get a solid workout pushing against someone else. And then it's that thing where so I've kind of built this idea around the toolbox, and it's like people think the toolbox is just like this red square one cubby and that's it. Handle, you chuck all your tools in there. But I've started thinking and sort of organizing it in a different way. Instead of just one toolbox, let's throw in tiers, right? So top tier is where you go to for most of your things. This is your bread and butter, things that you use every single day. Your second toolbox, your second sort of tier comes into that okay, if this specific thing, we're not actually getting the adaptations that we want for this specific athlete, let me see if I've got something in my second tier to supplement that and get them to the adaptations I want. And then again, we spoke about it earlier, but it's like, what's my continued education? Like, I go to a conference, I learn things, cool. That's another tool. Like, where does that tool go? So I've now started putting that in my fourth tier. So my fourth tier is like things that I learn, things that I capture, and it just stays there. Let me
Yeah.
ruminate on that for a little bit. And third tier. Third tier is like my experimental tier. So things that are in tier four, I can move up to tier three and say, okay, for just 6 weeks, I'm running this one thing that I learned. Does it work? If so, which tier? Is it first tier, second tier? Or do we keep it at fourth until we find a more adequate way to run it? From third tier, it can go one or two, but tools can also move down or move up depending on how it how it's called for. I think that's the really interesting thing of, again, speaking to so many professionals. You Again, this will be 135th episode. It's a lot of fucking episode. That's a lot of
Right.
people talking. So it's like, what do I do with all this information personally? And like, how does that fit into my principles and methods? And it's really weird because like, again, if I ever feel like there's nothing else for me to learn, I should probably hang up my boots and whistle. So it's like, it's this continuous thing of like, I might contradict a lot of what I said earlier on, but like I'm constantly learning as well.
Well, you're growing, right? Like it's all about growth, and like I said, you shouldn't be, if you got in the profession 15 years ago, you should not be the same coach that you were 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like it should be something where that growth and that maturation, and just like things have changed so much from from a training perspective too, that depends what your room's like, it depends what athletes you're working with, it depends what resources you have, what kind of staff you have. I mean, there's so many things that change it, but you still have that toolbox, and you can always, depending on where you go or what you do or what kind of job you get, it's different if you're in the private sector and you're doing one-on-one training or small group training or large group training, right? Or if you're working with, just like we talked about earlier, if you're working with adults or you're working with youth, you have that toolbox that you can fit and choose and plug those things in there. Just like you talked about manual resistance, manual resistance is great. It just depends. Are you going to do more manual resistance with youth, or are you going to do it with older individuals, or where are you going to do it? But you can still do it at every level. It just depends on the intensity that you may do it at, or what you want to emphasize more, right? Like if you want to emphasize a heavy eccentric on something, then you can manipulate that in that manual resistance. If you want to do something just to change up the training of maybe an older adult, then you could do something from that, right? But you're still doing some type of manual resistance, right? Same thing with machine-based or barbell. I mean, it's crazy, but I think you brought up a good point there. Is you're always learning, right? 150 some episodes or whatnot. You're always learning, but not with the good. You're also learning, well, that some things may not work in your area too, right? You may have that. You may have those things, knowledge base, that may not work in the certain area that you're at right now, or even at the level where you're at. As far as being 10 years in, it may not work in where you're at. It may work in another 5 years when you have a larger facility, right? So good with the bad, I think that's huge. I think everybody, I think the internship's great, like we talked about. Almost, it would be awesome if we could almost make it like something where, because registered dietitians go through like clinicals. They go to like, they do their hospital round, and then they do like a sports performance round, and they do these different rounds at different areas. It'd almost be very similar if you could do that with strength and conditioning. That way you could find out where you actually want to position yourself, right? If you want to work in a clinical setting, if you want to work with older adults, if you want to do physiology in a cardiac center, if you want to, I think that'd be huge. I don't know how it would really work, but I think, because it always looks bad when if you're looking at I was at this place for 2 months, and then I went to another place for a semester, and then I went somewhere else, and they're all different places, or maybe they're different levels of maybe collegiate athletics or something like that. And some employers look at that and they're like, well, this guy's moving all over the place. He's just looking to get a job or looking to get a paycheck, or he's just not a good personality to fit in. But the really thing is maybe he's just searching for that specific athlete or specific area that he really will succeed in, right? Like you really don't know. So but yeah, I mean, I think it's huge as far as working that realm and really trying to benefit yourself as far as having those different tools in the toolbox and never being shut off to that this is the only way, right? Like you said, if that's the case, then if you stop growing, like you might as well just hang it up. But really and truthfully, so,
One thing I did want to get to as well. Obviously, you interned under someone who invented one piece of equipment where I think if there's no equipment in the gym, that's the only thing I want,
right?
and it's big resistance bands.
Oh yeah.
What was that like, and so how was the development of bands then compared to like how they're used now?
Yeah, I mean it's very similar. Truthfully, I mean it's crazy because I went to high school in the mid '90s, and I can remember even in junior high, like in 1990, this individual would go to area high schools, and the high school kids would be training with these bands, resisted running, resisted squats, different ankle mobility drills, traction, and to us it was just second nature. Like it was just we did this through junior high, through high school, and not just one or two high schools, but roughly I would say, I mean, in the area, maybe 20 or 30 high schools, like they use these bands all around the area, right? And the local university and stuff. So it was pretty common. Obviously, it started just the bands themselves, and then obviously people started using them as accommodating resistance and go and put them on barbells and things like that. And I got to travel around with Coach Hartzell for a period of time where I went to different clinics and stuff and saw him introduce these things. And some people were standoffish, and some people were, this is fantastic. And that's a big reason why I got into Major League Baseball is some of the teams started using them as a preventative aspect as far as stretching and different ankle exercises and back traction. And I had education in that, so that's how it got me in the door. This was in the late '90s, early 2000s, and my first, when I went into collegiate section, my first collegiate job was out in Western United States, West Texas, and I pulled the bands out of my bag to train in the gym one day, and the guy that was my superior, he looked at me, he's like, "What are those?" Like he knew nothing about them whatsoever, but I was using them for like 10 years beforehand. I was always, I was in Ohio and on the East Coast using these bands, and I was in West Texas, and they had no idea, where'd you get those? What are those? What do you do with them? So it was interesting because it was so regional to me and so common to me that the individual that invented the bands didn't really do a good job of marketing across the U.S. Like he was very centralized. So now they're well known all over, right? You can buy them at any major wholesaler or anything like that, just for the fact that he had a patent on the band, and the band patent ran out. So now other companies like jumped on board, right? But until like early 2000s, like nobody really was familiar with them whatsoever. But things have changed. I don't know if the techniques have really changed so much. There's some interesting things that people do as far as some traction stuff, but there's nothing really. I think people put more. I mean, I don't know. I think it's been so popularized now that now it's kind of common that people are kind of making their own things with it. But all that stuff you've seen, there's nothing really too new with it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's something he's done before. He just didn't really market it very well or put it into writing, or there was no social media back then. It was the whole gym he had his own gym, and kids would go there and train, or he would take those bands to the high schools themselves and train. But just the sets and rep schemes, or we would do stuff for time, like timed banded squats and stuff like that. It was just interesting how he put that all stuff together. I think the big thing now is just there's more science behind it now and more science backing that he didn't really have back then, that some of his methods are actually proven to be beneficial. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of all kind of voodoo back then, where now it's it's kind of like, and people were looking at like, hey, that's a little off the wall, I'm not going to do that. Where now it's like a second nature. Like if you don't show up to a gym and they don't have bands, then or you're not doing some type of sprint or deceleration work or something that you don't have them, then what do you really, you're underneath the rock. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty cool to see that maturation of everything, and just how one training tool has kind of matured and grown throughout 30 or 40 years. So it's awesome though. But
I mean, I personally don't leave the house without my band. Like I've got a backpack and it's just loaded with bands.
Oh yeah, no, it's the thing is it's phenomenal, especially the older you get, and if things pop up or you need some type of traction, or even if you do some compression stuff with like flossing or anything like that. Like I think that's the big thing from a therapeutic standpoint now is I think it's very helpful. The more blood we can rush into that area to help recover and stuff. Even back then he was doing, he made the voodoo bands for the flossing that he had and stuff, and the thing, he didn't know what he was doing. He just knew that after it was done, people were feeling good. Now there's actually scientific backing behind it that it actually is actually doing something. So it's great.
So, fun fact, when I was, what age was I? I was 17, 18. I had a shoulder dislocation and like it just felt weak. So I was like, I Googled like mad and like I found this very new at the time, but like very out there video on voodoo flossing. I was like, let me fucking try it. So I bought a band and I was like, yeah, this actually feels great. So it's that thing of like, again, I also think voodoo flossing is very underrated.
Right.
But it's weird how like these little pockets of like not standard conventional ways of doing things pop up. And like you can either decide to do it or not, but like it's like try it. Just see what it's like. And I think again I felt great from it. So now I've adopted it a lot.
Yeah.
But like not a lot of people talk about it and I'm just like, what do you do then? Like how like what's other ways? So like voodoo flossing I love talking about.
Well, the thing is a lot of people are self experiment, right? Like just like training, right? Like I train this way because this is what I had experience with, right? So it's how you pretty much you interpret it, you go through it, it gives you a certain feeling, and then all of a sudden you want to give that feeling to the individuals you're training with. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you learn. I mean, that's how you learn to do things. Just like body tempering. I was introduced to body tempering through Donnie Thompson. I went and trained with him for a period of time, and we're good friends. At first you're like, I'm going to let you roll this big roller over me. I'm like, I don't, what's that going to do, but then you go do it a couple of times and all of a sudden you're like, I can't live without this, like it makes me feel good before I train, after I train, like, and now all of a sudden, if it's something that anybody comes to me, then, and I have those accessibilities to roll somebody out body tempering wise, I'm going to do it, like, and it just, same thing, with the voodoo bands, with compression, even training in some, like we had our athletes at when I was at UNC Charlotte, we had our athletes train like in like single ply briefs, like powerlifting briefs, just from a compression standpoint. When we got done training, the kids felt less sore, even though they handled more weight, and they felt the compression, felt like they could do, their confidence went up. So all of a sudden they were like, something I never thought before to even use. Now all of a sudden it's another training tool to increase athletic performance. You know what I'm saying? It's just all these different techniques and different variables that you have to kind of try and experiment on yourself before you really implement with other individuals. Vice versa, you have to be open to, if someone's telling you about something, you have to be open about trying it rather than just being closed off.
So I actually had a awesome conversation with Donnie about body tempering and just like adapting the way someone moves slightly to again not make them feel sore during the actual exercise. Like by doing those, like you're actually adapting the program to the way that they move personally. And I think that always carries more than just, hey, this is what the textbook says that we need to squat like, let's all squat like that. And I think that's where again, we love to talk about the 0.01 performance uptakes, but like if we're not coaching for the person that we have, it becomes a little bit harder.
No, you're right. And I think, being in a private sector, you can do that very easily, right? Especially if you're one-on-one or if you're a small group or whatnot. I think a lot of times when you get into group training, larger group training, and you don't have the resources or staffing, it becomes kind of cookie cutter. Like you can only hit so many things. And some kids are going to be beneficial. Some kids, it may not. Then you kind of have to tweak it a little bit. And it's difficult sometimes, especially if you don't have the resources to do so. You try to do those kind of things, or try to have like a advanced group and a developmental group, right? Based on training age. If you're not doing something like that, just a little tweak, then it's something you're kind of doing those kids kind of a disservice, right? Like it's all, there's no reason why certain kids, or if you have your individuals that are playing consistently, like your starters, if they're doing the same program as the kids that aren't playing consistently, like volume wise, then that's an issue too, right? Like there has to be some way that you look at things and try to revamp things and try to make it connect as much as possible to the athlete that you're training individually.
Yeah. With that, you kind of at this very start sort of went through your experiences and how you've sort of like traveled through this industry, hitting different major, minor, and athletic programs, private, non-private. What's some mistakes that you've made early on? Not so much the mistakes that I want to focus on, but like what did you learn from them, and what did you take away from them?
Yeah, I mean, just like we just talked about, I think one program fits all kind of mentality, right? I think that's something from a young strength coach. You know, especially if you learn from somebody and they're only doing one way of doing something, you can't fit a square peg in a round hole. You know what I'm saying? Like some exercises fit with some individuals, some don't. You know, I was a huge Olympic lift individual. You know, snatch, clean and jerk, clean with no real. You know, if people didn't do it, then there was an issue. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of learned from that. I kind of changed my program a little bit as far as our philosophy goes, you know, and did something where we could do, instead of doing an Olympic lift, if it doesn't fit into the scheme, maybe it's something we do more jumping or more, sprint work or more med ball toss or just still working on triple extension, but just doing a different means or kind of break our Olympic lift down into maybe doing pulls instead of doing full cleans or something, so just working on some type of triple extension. I think that's one way of really doing things. And the big thing, I think, is communicating with athletes, too. As much as we think athletes don't know their bodies, they do know their bodies, right? So we may think that we know what's best for this individual, but we still need to take in consideration how they feel, what they think that they need more of. Because if it's something that you can gear a program towards what they think they may need, then the more buy-in you're going to get. Right? So little things like that. I think a lot of it too is dealing with personality, especially in the collegiate realm and even high school, dealing with personalities, right? So not necessarily from the kids, but even their superiors, like their coaches or their parents, if you deal with parents, just knowing how to speak with those individuals and they should know that you have their best interest for their kid in mind, right? But sometimes a coach wants something specific and it may be totally against your belief or totally against your philosophy or even from a scientific basis what the athlete really should be training for. And you have to pick those battles. You really do, especially if there's someone that controls your paycheck. Then it's something that you can stand on both feet and say, hey, we're not going to do that. Well, then you better be ready to find a new job when that's said and done. Unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? And that's just a level of where the profession still needs to exceed, and people still need to see the profession as a profession, right? And still respect the individuals that are running it. But at the end of the day, we're customer service individuals. We have to give our customers what they want, and through time instill what they need in those programs. So at first, it may be something that you kind of help them out a little bit on what their needs are, but then you sprinkle in some things that you may think they need from that realm. Other than that, I think that's the biggest thing, is just being, just like we talked about, having that growth mindset and growing with the students or the athletes that you're working with is huge, and not just cookie cutter things. And using, I'm really big into designing my own program. I know some people like taking programs that are already designed or philosophies that are already designed, or and just implementing it in, and then they make a difference in coaching the athlete as far as their effort goes. But I really like tapering things from a volume and intensity aspect around their season or whatnot, and trying to do that through the knowledge I have, right? So whether it's Prolipin's chart or whether it's designing something based off percentage based or either velocity based movements, I try to do those things. But for the most part, I think just growing with the athlete and really trying to structure things so that they become more individualized, rather than just saying, hey, this is what you have to do. Because they might feel like they're being punished, and then all of a sudden, if there's some type of punishment involved, then they're not going to do it to their full potential.
I also think, kind of going back to an earlier point of yours, like sort of having like different rounds of different places that we get exposed to coaching wise, I think Gen Pop is the best experience that you can get. Again, your sole paycheck is coming from them, so like your personal skills have to be fucking on point.
Well, the thing is, if you're in the private sector and you're dealing with Gen Pop, more likely you're not the only gym they've ever been to. You know what I'm saying? So there's a reason they've come to your gym. And the thing is, just like you said, Gen Pop is paying your bills. There's no real place that the youth athletes are paying your bills. No, more like their parents are, right? And they're probably Gen Pop participants. But like I said, the Gen Pop is key, like you said. But there's a reason they're coming to your gym. And the thing is you have to find out what that reason was and make sure that you don't go down that same hole of why they left the last place they're at. And so I think Gen Pop, just personality-wise, you have to interact. Exercise-wise, you have to use that toolbox, because if you think, so-and-so is going to back squat, or you think they're going to front squat, as soon as they feel pain or any kind of discomfort, you have to have something else in that toolbox. You know what I'm saying? But you're right. I think it's I think from that, even when I do, like if I'm in a high school setting and I don't deal with the athletic population, maybe I have a Gen Pop class or something like that, or some Gen Pop mixed in. You have to do something that they feel included in that class and they feel like they're part of it, right? Because just like we talked about from a social standpoint, community is what it's going to keep people coming back over and over again, no matter whether it's in a sport related aspect or in a private sector aspect. The better your community is, the better retention you'll have, and the more people will keep on showing up and word of mouth to get people there.
Another thing that I want to talk about is the no free lunch.
Oh yeah, no free lunch. Yes, that's just something from a high school aspect. Everybody has to pay a price, like you just can't come in, whether it's in high school and we're given a grade for a class. Don't expect you're going to come in and just hang out and not put in work. I think everything people do, you have to earn it, right? So we're not giving you a free lunch. You're going to come and earn it. You're going to once you've completed that, you can dine with everybody else. You'll reap the benefits and do what you need to do. But it's just a saying I came up with, just to try to get kids involved. And when I put that on social media and kids see it, and they came in the next day and they're like, "Coach, what's this no free lunch thing, man?" I'm like, "What? You're out of school. Like we can't coast through everything, it's definitely something that we have to. You just have to pay your dues and make it worth it, man. Like nothing's given for free, and that's not only and I think that deals with some of the kids I work with and deal with, but I think also in this profession, like you have to pay your dues, you have to put time in. If you want the big job, you have to chase after it. It's not like someone's going to hand it to you. I mean, it's in everything you do. So it's just something that kind of popped up one day, and just a little motivational tidbit of what goes on in my mind on a daily basis. So hopefully that answers that question.
No. So there's kind of 2 points to that, and again, it kind of goes back to the standards and expectations. And it's right. I always feel like no matter what stage, you have to earn the barbell or the specific weights. Like I don't think just because you come in, you're going to start snatching or right. Using big movements. I want to see that you've got general strength, and I think that's something that I can see why it might be frustrating for some clients or some people that get coached by me. Like we're not always just doing big movements. Right. I want to see you squatting just on a box.
Yeah.
I want to see how you deal with that. I need to see how your knees move. Are you on your toes? Are you on your heels? Where's that push coming from? So like I've got this client who I'm now just getting more specific with because strength didn't come as easy to her. So now I'm like, okay, now we can be more specific.
Right.
Like you've showed that you have strength now. Like we're doing more niche-y things for what she wants to achieve.
Right.
And it's awesome to see like the further buy-in they get once we start getting a bit more specific to them and their goals. But onto something else that you've sort of said is Donnie Mabe had this great point of like no matter what badge is on your chest, you need to think of it as the most elite place that you want to be at or go for. Because like if you're not making that the biggest priority, you're looking at something else, things are going to fall.
Yeah, it'll slip through the cracks. And if you're working with people and people see that your eyes on something else, they'll be able to see that. They'll see that you're not truly vested, right? Like, it's really important. No matter what level, no matter if you're at the highest level as far as where you want to be, you have to treat it exactly the same. I think high school strength conditioning in the U.S., I think it's vitally important just for the fact that that's their first introduction to doing anything at the next level. And the majority of the individuals you work with, they're not going on to go to college level or play professional, right? Like, there's a large number that are just going to go into the workforce, or they may go into the military, or they may go to college and do whatever they want to do. But at least you know what you taught them, whether it's from a discipline aspect or whether it's from a ability aspect on how to move properly or exercise properly or how to train properly. They're taking that knowledge with them, right? So if they go to a college campus or they go to their local gym, somewhere in their head they have those coaching cues or that thought process that you taught them, that they may be going through it, or there's just it may be something that's just on the hindsight they have some type of knowledge base to go through that, right? Rather than just going in and doing something silly every day. And that's something that we have some kids that went in the military and stuff like that, and they're just like, hey, like you're me showing up on time and doing my best and stuff like that, it carries over to what I do on my daily basis. And they see that interaction, So, or if you have your own business and hey, you have to show up every day, like what you put into it is what you get out of it. They understand those things, So any little thing that you can, because just like you said earlier, we're trying to build the bigger person, right? It's more than just sets and reps and a barbell. It's really about building the person to be a better person and how they can transfer that over to other people around them and pretty much continue that through their lifespan, right? So I think that's huge. I think, and just like you said, you have to earn it. Like, from moving proficiency standpoint, you want to make sure those individuals, whether they just do a barbell or they do like a PVC dowel rod on a movement, you need to make sure they're doing things to the utmost of a higher standard. And once that standard is perceived, then they can move on to doing something more challenging, right? But you need to make sure that everything is good and just not throw them into the fire, for sure.
100%. There's it's always interesting for me when, again, I'm aware that there's different aspects to your specific role that makes it a little bit more challenging. So, like, what does that look like for you and your 100+ athletes that are coming in? For like, what does the programs look like? What does the structure of each day look like for you?
Yeah, it's a little different. Just because I don't train. I just train within the school day, so I don't train anybody before school or after school. So first, that's a consideration. I don't have block days, so we don't have 90-minute periods. I only have 50-minute periods. But then of those 50-minute periods, there's 5 minutes for them to change in and out. So I just lose automatic 10 minutes, right? So I have 40 minutes to train a group. So I have to warm them up. I have to go through their workout. And then, whatever our message of the day is or whatnot at the end, I have to take that in consideration. Really, and I have 2 different weight rooms too. So both weight rooms are almost different as far as what's inside of them. So programs are a little bit different also, depending on where we're at. Some teams that train in one weight room, they train year round. So they train during the summer, like our baseball programs, football programs. They train 5 days a week, pretty much year round. So I could do more with them, right? Like, their training age is a little bit higher. There's things that I look for as far as movement proficiency out of them before I move on to certain things. Like, we'll move into, we'll do I do Olympic lifts with them just for the fact that I have more time to teach them through the Olympic lifts and what's going on. We'll do more accommodating resistance for them. I run more of a rotating conjugate system with them. Our other teams that are in the other weight room that are during the school day, I do more of a pretty much total body every day with an emphasis of something, kind of like a tier system emphasis, because I also do, we'll still train 5 days a week, but we'll do 3 days lift and 2 days we'll do some type of speed and agility, 1 linear day and 1 lateral day, if that makes sense. We're pretty much stuck in the school, so we can only use the gymnasium. So that's one of our things. Those are pretty much, it's pretty basic. We don't do Olympic lifts with our teams that are inside the building just because they don't train year round. I don't have them year round, so when they go home for the summer, I don't really see them until the fall. By the time the fall hits, some are going right into in season, some are in their off season, and I don't really see there's really a necessary to try to teach the Olympic lifts for a period of time. For that aspect. Also, I have a very high. I only see so many athletes during the day. I think my roster is 300, and I think on a daily basis I see roughly 300 and I think 20 or 20, like in the 20 range athletes. But we probably have 450 in our school, so I don't see every single athlete because we just can't get them in to our classes, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The way our PE classes are set up, so it's not ideal, and that's something we're trying to fix. So those classes in the school, I have a huge turnover year to year. So I have a roughly 66% turnover. Whether kids graduate, new kids coming in, I have 4 classes during the school day inside the school. So those individuals are 66% every year. I'm getting new kids. So it's something I almost have to start from scratch every single year just to get them acclimated up. You know what I'm saying? Where the ones outside in our field house, I have very low turnover. I have maybe like a 15% turnover every year. So those individuals I pretty much progress through. Like I said, use more of a conjugate system. We do some max effort work. I don't have any specialty bars, so we'll change things as far as variation, as far as range of motion goes for our specialty bars, right? Could consider a variation. We sumo everybody. I'll sumo deadlift everybody just because it's a lot easier movement to teach, especially for individuals that are low training age, just from upper back issues that we may have. Our equipment is we only have one barbell per platform, so I may have 3 kids on a rack. So on a busy day for like our football program, we have 16 racks, so I roughly have maybe 30, maybe 42 individuals in one room at one time, and I'm pretty much the only coach in there. So everything's laid out. It's on the whistle. It's on the timer. I control the rest interval. If we superset something, I'll control the superset just on the rest interval as that. So it's very, it's very militant as far as how we go through things, if that makes sense. And we're at the stage now where our leaders of our classes, I actually have a timer on the racks. So I'll choose individuals to lead the class through our rest interval, and then I can actually go around and coach kids up as we go through, which has been really beneficial. But it's just a matter of time, just developing our leaders. Inside the school, everything is pretty much structured very similar, the same way. We just do very simplistic movements. So we start off like one of our main movements is just like you said, we'll do a lot of bodyweight stuff. If we do stuff with a PVC or a barbell until kids get a certain level, they graduate, and then we'll move them up. So like when we first get the kids inside the building, we'll go 8 weeks of just a general phase, learning how to squat, learning how to hinge, learning how to do some type of upper body push movement over, vertical and horizontal push, a vertical and horizontal row. And then from there, I'll categorize things. We'll have after 6 to 8 weeks, we'll have like a graduation. So what'll happen is we'll do our first movement is like an anterior landmine squat. So we'll just, they'll hold a landmine in front, they'll do a squat, and we'll load it up a certain weight based off their body weight. And if they do it for, it's pretty much 10 plus repetitions, then they can graduate up to a goblet squat. And if they do that for a certain period of time, it will test every 4 weeks after that. So every 4 weeks, they'll move up to another progression. And then once they move up to the final progression, it pretty much goes anterior landmine squat to goblet squat to front squat to we'll go into a back squat, and then we'll go into a box squat for lower body stuff. For our hinging stuff, like RDL, we'll do some type of hinge. Usually it's just a single leg hinge with body weight, like single leg balance hinge with body weight. Then we'll do like a waiter's bow, just holding onto a weight, like a good morning. They'll progress we'll actually do an underhand RDL with lightweight. So the underhand RDL, I find they can retract their upper back a little bit better, and the bar can actually slide down their quads a little bit easier. Go to overhand RDL, and then we'll start, if we need to pull off the floor for any type of deadlift, we'll teach it from there. If not, we'll go into sumo. And then upper body wise, we'll start with a push-up. We'll start with an eccentric push-up, then a push-up, then an elevated push-up, elevated push-up, then down to a regular push-up. And then we'll do some type of barbell bench, and then do some type of barbell bench with the tempo. Pretty basic stuff. And we just do that for our major movements. Everything else is kind of scattered in, whether it's like landing mechanics or depth drops or some type of box jump. We'll do low-level plyos into high-level plyos, depending on where we're at. And then all our other stuff is kind of like aesthetic stuff. Bicep, tricep, anything that makes kids feel good about themselves. We'll move into there. Yeah, I mean, that's the bread and butter. That's what wins the day, right? So if they feel good at the end of the workout and they look good, then they're going to come back for more and be happy the next day, right? So, but I pretty much have leaderboards for everything. So like on a 4-week basis, when we do test stuff, depending on if we do like bench or something like that, I'll have a leaderboard of everybody that's done that movement and where they are progression-wise, and then based off their body weight, what their body weight to strength ratio is. So that way, that kid might not bench the most weight, but he has the highest body weight to strength ratio. So it makes him feel good a little bit that he's at the top of a leaderboard somewhere, because it's usually a lighter individual, right? So we'll base all that stuff. So and we'll have, for running stuff, we'll do our timing stuff, our jumps. We do a triple broad jump. We do a vertical jump. We do a pause vertical jump. We'll do RSI. We'll do our flying 10s with a 10-yard lead and with a 30-yard lead, and then we'll do like a 10 and 20-yard sprint during our Tuesday, Thursdays, which are our running days. So we'll have all those timed out for everybody. We have signs. We'll have mile per hour signs that kids can sign in there, so it gets them, like they put their name up on the board, makes them feel good. Same thing with our guys outside. We'll do very similar stuff. It's just our lifting's a little bit more intense. We'll do a 4-day lift, 2 upper, 2 lower, 2 max effort days, 2 dynamic days, or repeat effort days, depending on how strong our guys are, where we are in the season. Usually off season, we'll do repeat effort work or do sub-maximal work. And if we're in season, we'll do more dynamic effort work based off maybe accommodate resistance or something like that. So just a basic rotation, and I treat it. We really don't taper off for in season. Truthfully, we may taper down, but both of our dynamic days come in the beginning of the week and at the end of the week. So we'll have a dynamic lower body day if it's a Monday, just because I don't know how the guys are going to feel when they play a game over the weekend or what they really did during the weekend. So that's our dynamic day. Then we'll go a max effort on Tuesday. They'll have some type of speed jump day that will test those things on Wednesday. Thursday will be a heavier lower body day. Friday will be a dynamic upper because everybody likes to train upper body on Fridays. They'll actually show up to school on Fridays if they train upper body. If they find out they train lower body on school day on Fridays, they usually never train. They never, they'll wait to come in later on in the day. So we kind of have to cater to those kids. It's not. And I'm at a new school too. Like, this school's only 4 years old, so like we have a lot of kids that came from other schools into our school district, whether it's because they wanted to, because our school is AI themed, it's artificial intelligence themed. So like a lot of our students are learning how to build computer programs and code and build apps and like build robots and like stuff like that. So our kids athletically may not have been playing. They might not have been the best athletes at the other schools that they came from. So they might have been second string or third string kids. So they came to our school to actually get playing time, if that made sense. So we really have to develop those kids. So culturally, we really have to get kids to buy into the program. And that's where we're finding our identity right now. Like, we've had some successful seasons the last couple of years. We just moved up to 7A, which is the big region that we're in now, just because our school grew so fast. It started out with roughly, I think, 1,300 or 1,400 kids, and within 4 years, we're up to 2,700 kids. So it's grown so quickly. Yeah, it's pretty aggressive. So our big thing now is trying to find our identity and who we are, and trying to get everybody bought in, because you still have kids that are still faithful to other schools, if that makes sense, right? Like, I have to stop kids in the hallway and go, they might have another school's t-shirt on or something, be like, hey, like, I know that you went to that school before, but like, you're somewhere different. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to try to build some type of, camaraderie, right? So just little things like that. Like, we don't do anything too special programming wise. I think our biggest thing is trying to find means, as far as, since we are an AI school, to try to find means to get AI involved, right? Like, I think that's my biggest challenge, because we didn't really have to do that in the past. But then also find financing to do those things, because everything that's AI related or technology related costs money, right? So, with timing systems and what we're going to time and how we decipher those times, to, our plyomats, or whether we use, or our jump systems, how we interpret those things. That's the biggest thing, is taking those. I'm trying to have kids now taking their data and interpret that in AI to give AI like feedback on what they should do programming wise, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just so from a knowledge base, because a lot of these kids go to a gym on their own too. It's not like they're, they train during school, but they with every American, they think more is better, right? So, unfortunately, so they always want to bench press after school, or they want to go to the gym. So at least I know when they're with me, we're doing the meat and potatoes. Like, we're doing the high, and I don't want to say high risk, but the exercises or the intensities that are a little more dangerous, right? Because you have someone actually supervising them. And then what do they need to work on supplemental wise? They can take their data and put data, in AI and go, hey, well, what do I need to work on outside of school from that perspective, right? So they're just not max bench pressing twice a day like, kids would do all over the United States every single Friday if they wanted to, but they're actually doing something productive to try to increase their strength to body weight ratio, or whether it's sprint mechanics or something like that. They're trying to improve those things, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to make a smarter app, and it just takes time. Like, my system evolves yearly, or like I'm going in year 3 right now. So obviously it's different than day 1. Day 1 is getting kids in the door, having them doing some type of structure, understanding how to train correctly. Year 2 was pretty much, okay, how can we give incentives for kids that are doing a good job? So like, if you're, just like with the mile per hour boards, with giving monthly awards to kids that are overachievers or whatnot, like little things like that, giving bracelets or something. Hey, you reached this vertical, here, take this. Here's a memento that you hit this certain vertical or something, or get their names on the board. And then our next stage is, okay, hey, how can we get even more performance-based, and what can we do from that perspective, if that makes sense? So it's all stage-related. In places I visit, like I'll try to visit different schools that maybe have already a strong tradition, right? Because that's something we're lacking. Well, how can we get that tradition even evolved even more? So just building, I think what I need to, what we need to work on as a coaching staff now, as far as not necessarily strength conditioning from a perspective of overall athletics, is getting leadership, getting kids to lead. So many kids want to sit back and just want to either look at their phone or follow directions, or have somebody else lead. How can we get individuals to lead, and how to use their brain a little bit and build some cognitive skills and build some interaction skills and get their peers to follow them, right? I think that's a huge thing. So that's our next agenda. I think from my perspective, and what I need to do is, how do we get individuals of common age to follow one another, right? Because no one likes, in this society now, no one likes to be wrong, right? If you tell someone's wrong, then all of a sudden they come up with an excuse or they get offended, right? It's okay to be wrong because it's a learning point, right? So, and it's okay to follow other individuals that are doing the right thing, or maybe you have the same mission, right? So that's our biggest thing. Our next step is just from a leadership perspective, how can we do that, and how can we get kids to buy in? Because the more kids, if kids lead kids, then the coaches don't have to do as much supervision, if that makes sense, right? So that's my game plan moving forward. So I'm trying to gain as much knowledge, or go around and visit individuals that have strong traditional programs to see what they do or their kids do. And I think that's our next step.
So I kind of want to go back to something that you said a couple times. And so with the rise of social media and these social media coaches, is this thing of the complexity within the workout, where it's if we look at really, really fucking successful coaches, they're doing the basics really fucking well. They're squatting, they're hinging, they're pushing, they're pulling. They'll have some type of knee dominant. They'll have some core conditioning, speed, but it's all basic stuff. It's not a trap bar on a deficit box with and you're doing a fucking whatever the fuck. I get very passionate about this because it's one thing that really, it kind of goes back to that client I mentioned. Do they have the fundamental strength to do some of the more task-demanding lifts? If they can't, so for me, it's why bench press if you can't do a push-up? So it's again, yes, I might have some type of kettlebell or dumbbell push press in there, right? But I need to see that the press-ups are solid first. So it's the basic and the fundamentals work. So this high-end, fancy stuff, cool. It doesn't. I would rather see someone do something very boring but really fucking well than juggle 3 exercises just to say you did 3 exercises at once.
No, 100%. We're at a stage too where in social media it skews the perspective of a lot of kids, right? Because they think these fancy things are that's what makes them successful, right? Mm-hmm. That's not the case at all. And even the case of individual lifting a certain amount of weight, some kids will just stop and watch, right? Where to you or me, it's just it's 225. It's no big deal. Just let him lift 225. Instead, the whole room stops and there's everybody staring it's an anomaly, right? But since we're so used to seeing something like this all on a daily basis, so that's a hard thing for me to grasp. Is just stop. Why should I watch this person lift when I want to be better than that person? I need to get my butt in gear. You know what I'm saying? Well, I try to teach that too. That it's great to praise individuals that they've accomplished a certain goal, right? But it's something that if it's the difference between me and you, I'm pushing myself more. I'm not, I want you to lose more than I want to win more than you. You know what I'm saying? And kids, I don't think a lot of kids have that drive some individuals did a long time ago. When I used to train with people, even my interns, I wanted to physically hurt you when you were training. You know what I'm saying? Oh, let's do this. Oh no, let's do this, And even though, when I trained with individuals and they're a lot stronger than me, I'm going to give 110% to try to bust you. You know what I'm saying? Even though I have no possible chance, that's not my thought process for that 2 hours or 2.5 hours we're going through a workout. Nowadays, it's a lot of kids won't even challenge themselves to even attempt something because they know they're afraid to fail, right? So our big thing is mentally, hey, having positive talk, always saying you can do something instead you can't do something, but really putting them in challenging positions that they need to excel. Having those goals, it may be something that a goal maybe that, hey, we want you to bench, 1.2 3 times your body weight, even though you're not even close to that. You can't even bench 1 time your body weight, but that's our goal. So you need to have aspirations to get to that goal, like, and that's the thing is I think social media has skewed a lot of those things through different individuals, training. But I think a really big thing too is the professional athletes. As soon as a kid sees a professional athlete doing something, they think they have to do it right away, right? Like, and I'm not saying that all professional athletes do uncommon things. Some of them train really, really instinctively and smart. But the thing is they're professional athletes for a certain reason. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to do some certain things and certain lifts just for show sometimes. But like you said, the good ones do the simple things great. And it's important that you try to preach that to kids. And I think simplicity is key, and keeping your lifts as simple as possible. Even if that means, doing the same 3 lifts and doing them throughout the week. I mean, I would much rather if you do the same 3 lifts 3 days a week, well, if you do that for a month, I mean, that's 12 exposures that you're pretty much exposing, rather than just doing the 1 lift on Monday for 4 weeks. Now that's only 4 times, right? I'd rather get exposed 12 times to learn everything properly. It doesn't have to be maximal weight. It doesn't have to be anything aggressively, but at least I know that they're getting used, and it might be monotonous to their mind too, that they're getting boring, but sometimes really good training is boring. But you just have to mentally prepare yourself and drive through it. So that's what's going to make you better.
So I had a conversation with one of my old lecturers, and we were talking about like the effects that COVID had on teaching and kids' way of processing and dealing with things. And it was a super interesting, and again, it's not just because of COVID. Like, there is elements of social media tied in. Like, kids nowadays just expect things. I've never expected for anything in my life if I didn't work for it. So it's this thing where like they're unwilling to step into that uncomfortableness. It kind of goes back to what you were saying. It's like, even like in internships, my goal was to make the head coaches and the coaches remember who I am. Yeah. And I had a short period to do that. Like, what am I doing different to everyone else that is going to achieve that? And like, I can call Coach Mac right now and he'll answer, right? It's just like, it doesn't matter what it takes. I'm going to fucking do it, because that's what it takes to get to that next stage. And yep. I do think kids nowadays, like, 1, expect things to just happen. 2, they're unwilling to get uncomfortable. And like, the weight room is somewhere where you're going to fail and get very uncomfortable real quick. So it's like, it's a great way to expose them to like controlled failure. And one thing that I've been telling parents and clients, it's like, the weight room is the only place where you can only get better if you fail.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If you're wanting to become stronger or fitter, guess what? You're going to have to go until you can't. So it's this nice concept of like retrospective of what's going on everywhere else. Like, failing is a good thing in the gym. And to also your point about the pro athletes, I mean, I like to listen to how athletes train, because some of them aren't even like doing your traditional squat. Some might hate the squat. Some might have, knee replacements. They can't squat. Like, what are we doing as coaches at that point? Are we still squatting them because like squat's the thing? Like, you have to squat. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like professional athlete, like their skill set, no matter their skill set's so high anyways, even if they didn't train, they're still going to be great at their sport. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what you do with them, it's going to be beneficial. You could just have them do, iso split squats, or you could just have them do bodyweight squats, and they're still going to be good at their sport. The thing is, are they going to be durable to last or be exposed to a certain season or a certain amount of stressors throughout that season, right? Without some type of tangible. So that way you have to add and reduce stressors as you go on as far as training goes. I don't think a lot of people put that in perspective. A lot, especially visually seeing that, right? They just think, a lot of individuals already think, well, I could do that, so I'm just as good as them. You know what I'm saying? And that's not the case whatsoever. Even some collegiate athletes at a higher level, they're very good at their skill set. So, I mean, they come in and, some guys don't have great work ethic and they still succeed and put numbers out on the field or score points, even if they don't work hard. But the thing is they're eventually going to hit a plateau at some point, because their work ethic and their belief of them working, they hit a stagnation to a point, right? So, but like I said, I mean, I think it's important that you get that basic knowledge and you understand where to dose it and where not to dose it. But just like you said, I mean, you're trying to set yourself apart from everybody else. And that should go with training too. Like, what are you doing different than everybody else? I mean, is your recovery up to standards? Are you eating the correct things? Are you getting enough sleep? And from an intern perspective, just like you said, you want those coaches to remember who you are. And that's something is, what are you doing? Are you actually, some interns are afraid to talk to the coaches, right? They're like sitting back. Oh, I can't talk to that. That's the head coach or that's the assistant coach. Thing is they're just normal people, right? They're regular people just like you, and they're they're around the same people in the office every single day. They're looking for someone different to talk to, truthfully. You know what I'm saying? So I know some coaches love coaching on the field, but sometimes their highlight is going out recruiting because they get to talk to different family members, different kids. They get to go to games. They actually, aren't in that football facility year round or that facility they're at. So I mean, like you said, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's just interesting because then some people just think that since they're there and they have that name on their shirt or that logo that they've made it, right, that they're automatically set. But it's definitely something you need to navigate, and you need to know who you have to intern with, right? Like I think if you're an intern and you're going in and you want to be in the profession, you need to know who the next hot individual is or next hot staff is as far as their training beliefs go. That's gonna have a lot of individuals, going through their door trying to learn from them to get to that next level. I mean, you just can't go to a certain level of institution and expect to jump up right away through the ranks.
So an interesting conversation I've been having lately is you kind of mentioned AI earlier, and then offline I kind of want to show you something else. But so if I was to intern now, I would be speaking about different things. So a lot of coaches are getting scared that AI is going to replace, or they're having that hard fight against AI because it's like they're useless, you can't coach, whatever. But as an intern, I would be saying, hey, I'm going to dedicate some time to learning how AI works. Because guess what? When I'm starting to interview, I'm going to turn to the coach and say hey, I can dictate where your players are going to be. I can identify trends a lot quicker than you can. I can project where athletes are going to be or where they're not going to be. I can see who's more likely to, tier whatever based on their specific profiles. I can tell you that for sure. What other intern is going to come through that door that isn't going to say that? Right? So for me, I'm telling interns, learn AI.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a big player coming up. So if you're already ahead of the curve, you're going to be more employable. You will get those big names, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So it's this interesting thing of how are we leveraging ourselves now to better deal with the demands of what the industry is bringing.
No, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. 30 years ago, everybody said, "Well, get into computers." Oh, get into computers. And the diminish of labor jobs, right? There's not in the U.S. If you're individual in a labor job, you can pretty much charge whatever you want to charge because there's such a high demand for individuals to do that type of work, right? Vice of computer work, now it's something just like you said. Hey, get into AI. AI, know what AI does or what it can do for you, and that's across the board. Just making the livelihood easier, right? But from a strength conditioning perspective, it can be something that dissects. I've taken programs, people put samples of their program online or this or that. Sometimes I'll just take a picture of that and put it in AI and tell it, hey, decipher this. Let me know if this is a complete training program. Let me know, due to, X, Y, and standards. And it'll come back, hey, this program is, it's sufficient. It hits this area and this area. It'll actually analyze everything and let you know what's going on, or it'll tell you the differences, what is deficient in. Hey, for a volleyball player, what is this? Well, it's missing contact jumps or it's missing deceleration. It just gives you cues so you can learn from it. And if you put in what type of where you're at in the season, where you're putting this program in and stuff, it'll help you kind of just from its knowledge base, set some stuff up. So it's almost like you have another staff member there and you're going, hey, look over this real quick. Just let me know how this looks. If you don't have a staff member there, if you're a solo guy working solo, you just put it in there real quick, get some dictation and get some feedback right away, right? Which is pretty cool. I've done that with some things and just to get some clarification on some stuff. Because as old as I am, I think it's still AI is important in a lot of resources. And it's things, if, like you said, if you're not willing to go that direction, that's huge. I think another lost art, among younger coaches is just on the floor coaching. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
I think just being there, knowing how to talk to individuals, knowing how to break the ice, and then being able to, instead of just barking orders at somebody, going up and how to pretty much present on the floor coaching and how to structure a room, how to have things organized. I think that's a lost art with a lot of individuals because some people can't conceptually visualize things of how things are going to run or how things are going to be before actually doing it, right? So, I mean, that's something I kind of hold myself to a true standard because I learned some really good coaches on how to do those type of things. And that's something I really kind of pride myself on is, okay, hey, if we have 60 athletes and there's one or two coaches, how can we run this? How can every kid be supervised properly? How can we educate them how to do things properly? You know, I think that's huge. But like the future is AI with the rush of sports scientists and sport analytics, people using Power BI and certain things to build dashboards. That's the direction that's what people want to see, right? And the use of extra technology. I mean, that's the direction things are going. And I think that's a huge thing. As many as coaches that we would consider old school that don't listen to technology or whatnot, there's going to be more. There's more. Those coaches are slowly moving out of the profession, and these newer coaches are coming in that want to use that AI and use that technology. I think it's going to be huge. So
100%. It's definitely an interesting time, and I do love it. I do love it.
No, for sure.
What's a piece of advice that you would give new coaches or people wanted to come into this industry?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, like I said earlier, if you want to get in the industry, you need to have a good mentor. You have to have a good network. You can't do it alone, right? Seek a mentor that you feel would challenge you, really. Not that you'd be comfortable with or that maybe you have the same philosophy with, but pick one that would challenge you, that maybe philosophy-wise you match up a little bit, but one that, if you want to be successful in this profession, one that has connections, that you may think is going to be the next hot thing, one that's actually going to, when you email them or reach out to them, they actually reply back and talk to you, right? Like, I think that's a big thing is we have these coaches that we put on pedestals that do these great programs, but if they're unwilling to reach back out to you or connect with you and talk about their program or just, or share their program with you, then it might be a red flag. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's huge. You can go to conferences. I think it's good to go to certain conferences and meet coaches and have your little network of individuals to bounce ideas off of. But I think also, I think we talked about too, is just have that toolbox. Don't be stuck in one route. If you're an Olympic lift guy, if you're machine based, if you're barbell based, kettlebell based, it doesn't matter what you are. Have that toolbox because you never know when you're going to be put in a situation that you're going to need those things. If you get your first head job and you walk into the facility and it's all machines, it's something you need to prepare for. It's not going to be a power 4 school where they're going to clean it out and give you all brand new racks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have to deal with that and prove yourself that your philosophy works before they really buy into you, right? So don't go into demand stuff right away. Like, just go in and work your tail off and there's no free lunches, right? Like, pave your way and work for it. And eventually it's going to be beneficial, but there's always clinics and talks going on and just try to network and meet, even, I've been in the profession. This is my 26th year or something like that, 27th year. I have no idea, but I still go and visit coaches on about once a month. I go visit, whether it's a high school coach or a college coach or even someone I've met before in the past. I try to go visit and just take a day just to go visit and see what they do. If there's something different, talk to them about life. It's not just about X's and O's and strength conditioning. If they have a family, talk to them about their family, about real people stuff, I think that's huge. I always go, I visit programs, but I also visit gyms, just regular gyms and meet with people and who are the strongest guys in the gyms, like most of those guys don't have an educational background. They just got strong, right? Well, how'd they do it? And just trying to see if you can lift with them, see if you can pick their brain. Like, just if you strive to gain knowledge, try to gain knowledge from everybody instead of just one pathway. So networking, gain knowledge and just work your tail off. I think those are the three biggest things, and everything will pay off. I mean, that's pretty much it. So.
There's a saying in Portuguese, so I'm
Yeah.
Portuguese, and it's translated to you can learn something from everyone, even a dumb person. You can learn not to be them.
Right.
It's I'm not calling coaches dumb, but it's like
Right.
you can always learn something from someone. And again, going back to that intern, you can learn from them. It's like it's just having that openness to listen and see what can be taken away from there.
100%. Just because, I mean, the thing is we can't, in the profession we're in, we can't see that we're above anybody, right? We shouldn't feel as if we're above anybody. We're all equals in this field. It just means that somebody has a title and somebody doesn't, really, truthfully. I think we're all equals, and we still have to treat people like people.
Mm-hmm.
And really, just like you said, just learn from everybody. We all come from the same background, and things are ever evolving, and just try to have knowledge base and learn from everybody.
I really appreciate you for coming in today.
And no, it's awesome. I appreciate you reaching out, and I know that we tried to connect it through numerous times. It just sometimes time's crazy, but I really appreciate it, man. Like it's awesome talking to you, and some of the things you said really match up with how I feel about some things, right? And it's just cool to talk to other people, man. Like it's just I think in the industry that we're in, sometimes people can just be off walls with some ideas sometimes, and it's good to really connect with individuals that are very similar. It kind of makes you feel as if you're on the right track, right? So it's good.
100%. So very early on in this podcast, I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about like we can agree on the 95% of the industry, but it's how we manage the 5%. It's how, well, like it's essentially a marker for dictating how effective we are as coaches and how good we can be. Because if we disagree on the five, but we're able to understand each other's points, fucking great coaching, right? If we disagree and we fall out over the 5%, there's deeper issues in there,
That's very
right?
true. Yeah.
So it's like again, I've always tried to listen to all sides of the industry because like again, this podcast is very selfishly for me, right? I like to learn. I'm in Scotland. There's a limited amount of coaches I can
100%.
reach.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to have every sort of corner of the industry covered just to keep up with what's happening.
Right.
And I think it'd be very easy for me to be like, no, this is my way. I know how it works. I've coached at the top end. I've coached at the bottom end. I know everything in between. It's like, not really. Like the more I speak to coaches, the less I feel like I know. So it's always interesting. And again, I love the stories behind how you've came up with that principle, that method, the way of being. So for me, it's like let me shut up and listen because I might actually take some things from it. And it's like it's not. I'm never bigger than anyone to never listen.
No, 100%. Well, it's more than X's and O's, right? Just like I said, it's more about that. And I think I mentioned Donnie Thompson before, but I lifted with a lot of lifters, right? Like I've been to Westside Barbell. I lifted with a bunch of guys up in that realm, different powerlifting crews and stuff. But like in 2016, I connected with Donnie, and after training, like we'd go on his little shack, right? His little shack and hang out and eat or whatever. And we didn't talk about lifting at all after that. We just talked about real world stuff, and it's just like all these other lifters, all they did was talk about lifting, like that's all they did. You didn't even know what they did for their career. You know what I'm saying? Like to actually make money, because a lot of them didn't make money lifting, right? And then Donnie, like he's talking about religion. He's just being a real person. Once you meet his family, like stuff like that. And you're just like, that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? Like we came together, we trained together, we got after it, and then afterwards we just talked like real people, and I think that's how it should be, really. You know what I'm saying? Like same thing in the day when you have a staff, like you have to treat everybody like real people. It's tough. It's tough if you're like an intern or like an assistant and your boss just dictates everything. That's why usually if you have a boss that's really high up there or separates themselves from his assistants, usually assistants, GAs, interns all hang out buddy, and no one really hangs out with the head guy. It should be, or they have animosity towards the head guy, right? But if you really work for a true leader, you guys are all working together. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way you can really have proficient staff and really trust one another as far as with each other's, because it's really your job's on the line, right? Every day, whether you're an intern or assistant, like that's if you're an intern, that's a career that you're going into. If you're an assistant, that's somebody that that's helping you get another next job. So it's something if you can trust those people, that's huge.
I think sometimes, so I experienced this with Coach Mac.
Yeah,
It's not so much that like he's unreachable. I think because he holds such a presence and he walks in, no one really asked him. And I picked up on this. This is why I'm bringing this up.
yeah,
No one really asked him like, "How are you today?" Because then I think that's also the same for like directors and head guys. Like not a lot of people spend time and be like, "How are you today? How did you sleep? How was your day?" So I started doing that to Coach Mac because I noticed, and I was like, he'd put his hand around my shoulder and be like, "I'm good today, buddy." I think of like I think sometimes it's those small things that matter most for people. We'll be fine regardless of what happens. Like we've got a job to do, but it's just having that thing of like, okay, he cares more than just where he is.
right.
Like I've been doing this thing. I started in January, and it's like if I see one of like a coach that I know or have had on or that I respect, I'm gonna give him a call if he's achieved something. And like, hey, I fucking saw that you got into this new program, this new role. That's fucking sick. Well done. How are you feeling? What's it like there? And it's just like spending that little bit of time with them, being like, you've achieved something. Let's fucking talk about it.
Yeah. No, it's good. I think everybody gets caught in the rat race, right? Like everybody gets caught of more, 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 and they don't live in the moment, right? And I think by you doing that, acknowledging something, it gives an opportunity because normally people don't really. Well, I just got a new job. How do I feel about that? Well, shit, I'm kind of stressed out about it, man. I'm excited, but now it's a whole new opportunity. I'm leaving something I'm comfortable with. These are the challenges, and now they get to talk to somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I talk to even though my wife's in athletics, like I can talk to her about strength conditioning because she's a former athlete or something, but she doesn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things. Same thing as she's a dietitian, right? So she can talk to me about some dietetic stuff, and I may understand it, but her relationship with the athlete she has, I don't really understand. Because I'm not there with it, right? So it's like a lot of people don't have that fortunate for that spouse to be in that realm. A lot of strength coaches may not have that individual, so they're just like they're not asking how. They're just excited that somebody got a new position, right? Like, but a lot comes with it, man. I mean, it's interesting for sure because I think all of us, we don't want to fail, right? Yeah. And even though I think a lot of people outside of sports look at the sport record and they go, well, they were 3-12, they were 3-11, or so, they had some bad record. They think that's success, but that's really not. That's a very small part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether your interns moved on and got full-time jobs, or whether you connected with the kid, or whether your program runs smoothly that day. There's daily wins and losses that happen all the time. The big thing is just stacking up more wins than losses. So
100%. No, it's a great way to even just keep up with things.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you the full story at the end, but like it's even just like the differences between programs. Like you walk into a whole new weight room, a whole new system, and you're just like, okay, how do I manage that? And so what I found as well is like by verbalizing what's going on, you can actually start coming up with, okay, this is how I'm going to fix this. Actually, it wasn't as hard as I was picturing, and it's great. It's a great way to. Again, I'm a firm believer. Like my goal in life is to make this industry better than when I found it. So like, it's like, what steps do I take to make this happen?
No, it's good. Well, the thing is, you have to have that process, right? I think for you, first off, people that like being in the U.S., I think a lot of strength coaches take things for granted, right? Because they have the resources at their fingertips. You know what I'm saying? It's easy. If I want to go get a new job, I just send my resume out, and someone might hook on it. Where if I'm in another country, I just can't all of a sudden get up and go somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It's very interesting because we take those things for granted. In looking in your shoes, you're just trying to make. First off, you're just trying to, in an area that doesn't really have a market, you're trying to build a market. You know what I'm saying? Like to something that is just totally. It's not. People understand it, but it still goes away. It goes against kind of like a way of life kind of perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like I could be right or wrong, but that's just from what I get from it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're just trying to. There's a big brick wall, and you're just trying to beat down the brick wall, and slowly crumbles are just coming off and off because you're making it through. Eventually something needs to happen that it just blows up, and there's a hole. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it seems like your perseverance is really paying off. The thing is instead of using your bare hands, you're trying to find a way that you can get a hammer or a jackhammer or something to make that hole even faster. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's the relentless pursuit.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you so much.
No, I appreciate you. No, anytime, man. It's great talking to you. I think, just like you like talking to people, I love talking to people. Hopefully we got something out of this. I know I learned a lot from you for sure. And I think it's really great what you're doing. I don't know if I could do what you're doing just from the perspective as far as just building something from the ground up, but it seems like it's going in the great direction, and I wish you all the best for sure.
That's why I have no hair. If you can let people know where they can sort of reach you and ask further questions.
Yep. Social media is great. Obviously, Coach JG Patrick is social media on Twitter and on Instagram. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. And then from there, we can discuss. And if you need an email or anything, we could go from there.
Perfect. I appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great day.
Peace.